good game, right? Fair trade plus advancement. That's a good definition for a good marriage. Okay, but now you have a community of people like that together. Okay, now it opens up an ecological niche, and the niche is psychopathy. And the psychopath comes in and pretends that he's a productive, generous reciprocator, but he's not. He's just an instrumental manipulator. But he can get away with it because there's enough wealth generated by the cooperators, the honest cooperators, so that there's a space for someone to exploit the system. And that stabilizes that 4% of the population. So, across the world, 4% of people are close enough to clinically diagnosable psychopaths. And that's probably better than being, paralyzed by fear and anxiety and just staying in your bed. It's better in terms of reproductive success, let's say, and maybe even success in general. But it's not a good game because in the real world, most psychopaths get found out pretty quickly. So, you can screw somebody once and maybe twice, but then they figure it out and then word gets around. And so in the real world, two things happen. Psychopaths have to be itinerant so they can find new people to exploit. And the other thing that happens is generally non-psychopathic males who are fairly aggressive keep the psychopaths under control. And so part of the reason that women like men who have some capacity for aggression, but who are still productive and reciprocal, is that men who are productive and reciprocal, who have some capacity for aggression, can keep the real monsters at bay. So it's hard on women, because they have to navigate that really thin line between productive generosity and the capacity for aggression. That's a really tough thing to navigate. That's basically the story of Beauty and the Beast, the Disney movie, right? Because Gaston is a narcissistic psychopath. And the Beast is someone capable of aggression, but he's not tamed into a reciprocal relationship. It's also the basis of the most fundamental female pornographic fantasy. And the Google guys figured that out, 15 years ago when they analyzed billions of sex fantasy searches by men and women. Men go for visual imagery, but women go for story. And the story is the same. It's, innocent young woman with a lot to offer, but kind of hidden, finds some male, 5 categories of men: vampire, werewolf, pirate, surgeon, billionaire. And he's, kind of an aggressive guy, but he's capable of being tamed into an intimate relationship. That's the standard female pornographic fantasy. And it's pretty much the standard fantasy of romance. And so you can see, what women are trying to do in that situation is they're trying to find some guy that's got the capacity for mayhem, but that's under control, but who can integrate that into a productive, generous, reciprocal relationship. So,
it's fascinating because the capacity for violence and the capacity for aggression is one of the things that's been actively muted in our male population.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of reasons for that, and some of them turn into positive feedback loops, like there's sort of self-fulfilling prophecies. So there's a lot of women out there who've never had a positive relationship with any male in their life, right? And maybe not only not a positive relationship, but really a series of pretty negative relationships. And so women like that are very leery of any expression of male ability of any sort, because they can't distinguish productive competence from arbitrary power. And because they're trying to defend themselves because they've been hurt repeatedly, maybe they come from broken families and catastrophically arranged neighborhoods, one of the tactics that can be used in that situation is just to try to do everything you can to distance yourself as much as you can from any display of male ability, because it can't be distinguished from psychopathy, can't be distinguished from the use of power. It takes a sophisticated woman to be able to make that distinction. So the other thing you see too is that young women are much more likely to be seduced by psychopaths than older women, because the psychopaths mimic competence. That's what a narcissist does too. They're confident, and women read confidence as a marker of competence, and that's reasonable. But that opens up it opens up the space for exploitation, because if you can mimic confidence, that's false confidence. narcissistic false confidence, then you look competent, and that works particularly well on naive young women. And of course, they get exploited by people like that, and they think, well, that's what men are like.
Right.
Yeah. And then women like that, you know, they have boys, and then they're afraid of the boys whenever they express anything looking like masculine competence, and they basically emasculate the boys, and then the boys get bitter, and then they mistreat women, and the whole bloody thing just spirals out of control.
It's insane.
Yeah.
All the wood that they have staged for everything. It's pretty amazing.
I got an offset smoker for the first time. This company, Centex Barbecue, they built me this grill. And I always cooked on a Traeger, which I love because it's so convenient. You know, you see it on your phone, you know what the temperature is. But this, I did it like the old school way. Like, burnt the logs and the offset smoker, regulated it with the dampers, got the temperature up to like 250 degrees, put the steaks on, smoked the steaks till I got them to 110 internal temperature, and then seared them. There's like a charcoal grill on the side. Oh my God, it's insane. It's the best.
Since you started your carnivore
There
diet,
it is right there. So they made me that's little charcoal grill on the side, and then the other one, if you go backwards, that's the actual grill itself. That guy did a fucking tremendous job. It's like a real work of art. It's incredible, like just the craftsmanship.
What's it called?
Centex.
Centex.
Central Texas.
Yeah.
Central Texas smokers. It's really, really super well done.
How do you think elk would do on something like that?
Oh, it does great. I cook elk on the Traeger all the time. I don't think it'll be any different. I'm probably going to cook some elk on it tomorrow night.
Okay.
So I'm excited.
I might try that out.
Yeah. So what's up, Mike Glover?
What's up, man?
Nice
Thanks for
to meet
having
you
me.
finally. I've been following your content.
Years. I think
Yeah.
I saw you talk about a bug out that I did
Yes.
from Phoenix to Canada, and you're like this crazy prepper guy. And I was
Yeah,
like,
you
yes.
went in one tank of gas.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't one tank, but it was.
Yeah.
How did you do it?
So the idea from the company perspective was we need to demonstrate that bugging out is not realistic in the country. Like going from gas station to gas station would not be available. So if you bug out, you have to do it self-sustained with no support. So the idea was like, hey, get a Dodge 2500 pickup truck because the Toyota Tacoma is not going to cut it. We trimmed out everything. We put wood in the back. We put tanks of gas, like an extra spare tank, 75 gallons, which extends your range massively. And then we did an unsustained or a self-sustained trip from Phoenix to the Canadian border. No stops at a gas station, no stops for anything. So we slept out of the vehicle. We just did it on one tank of gas, essentially one tank of gas. We had to run and prime fuel into the reserve, from the reserve tank to the main tank. But it was just like to prove like, hey man, this idea of bugging out from a bad situation to a better isn't really realistic. And
With one tank of
with
gas.
one tank of gas. So like if you have $100,000 vehicle because you're like the overland bug out guy and you have a quarter tank of gas, then you have a big lead weight that's just nothing. I mean, you burn it to the ground.
How far can you get with 75-gallon tank as a reserve?
A couple thousand miles with your main tank. So most tanks 15 to 30 plus gallons, and then a reserve tank. Titan has a reserve tank about 30 gallons, and then you can get an extended fuel tank. Like I talk about this like it's innovative, like it's new. But if you live in rural Montana or rural anywhere in America, you roll with a 75-gallon tank in the back of your pickup truck because you'll go, 500 miles before you see the next gas station.
Now, what's interesting about this is it should be something that people should have in their mind. Like this kind of information there's nothing bad about having this kind of information, but wasn't there a thing where some parts of the government were trying to label people as potential terrorists for preparing for things going bad? There's a rabbit hole there. First, anything on Facebook that was seen as extreme, think fringe, unique, different, then you were potentially labeled. So originally, we teach canning and jarring at Fieldcraft Survival. I mean, my family preparedness director, Amber, focuses on families. So we teach canning and jarring. That was